Alright, guys, so I decided to create this next segment just as its own episode so it's cleaner in case people don't really want to listen to the other one. Um, but yeah, let me talk about the workshop, the webinar from today. The one earlier today from Thursday, March 21st was TikTok Shop 3P integrations, learning about the unique benefits of TikTok Shop's third-party app integrations and how to use them. So 3P is third party. Let's see, I took some screenshots and basically they talked about the apps that are available. Now I'm going to try to post this either on the blog or Instagram. I might not be able to post it on Instagram because earlier it was telling me that the file wasn't large enough or something. It needed to be at least 1 kilobyte. I don't know. But anyways, got about 10 pages here. So let's see. The first one was just a welcome to TikTok Shop App Store 101. So basically, they say that as a seller, I need to efficiently upload product listings from my e-commerce platform to TikTok Shop. And so they give you these use cases like WebBee, Silk, Shopee Dance. They call these connectors or bridges, and basically you can use them to basically for your product catalogs, and you can like organize your inventory. Next, they talked about multi-channel management or control centers. So you can use these apps such as Products Up, Pipe 17, Lit Commerce, and these are used so that you can integrate and manage multiple marketplaces in one interface. And the use case is to be able to have a unified interface to manage and streamline multiple marketplace operations. So it provides like a full, they call it a full suite, and you can work with products, catalogs, inventory, shipping. Now, not all of these apps are free, and I didn't get a screenshot of every single app, but I did what I could. Actually, one of these slides looks like it's duplicated, so it's actually going to be 9 slides. So TikTok Shop also has shipment and fulfillment apps or coordinators. So they have Easy Ship, ShipStation, Ship Theory, and they call this use case, it's a use case for a scalable solution. And basically you can automate your workflows, and they mentioned that there could be some cost savings with shipments and bulk print labels. Let me see. I took a note on some of this. Well, I guess if you want to get to the App Store, you go to TikTok Shop app. To get to the App Store, you go to Seller Center on the home page on the left panel. You click on Growth, and then under there's the App Store. And I think they said ShipStation, you can get a 30-day free trial, which is pretty good. After that, it's $9.99 a month. that is an app that you can use for discounted shipping. It works with eBay, Shopify, Amazon, and a lot of these apps that they mentioned do work with other types of e-commerce apps. It's I don't think they all work with everything, and I don't think they're all free. Just like I mentioned about ShipStation. Um, it's not all free, but it's a good option. Let me see. When they talked more about ShipStation, they mentioned that it's for small and mid-sized businesses, and yeah. In addition to the ones I mentioned, it's also compatible with WooCommerce. And the key benefits of ShipStation, we already talked about automating workflows and cutting the costs, but it talks about bulk print up to 500 labels and auto send tracking information to customers. I haven't tried it yet, but I actually want to try that one. There's Seller Active, which is an app for small to middle businesses. Is compatible with Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Shopify, BigCommerce, and more. It starts at $99 a month for the basic plan, and then it has key benefits. So you can create and manage product catalogs across multiple marketplaces, and there's real-time inventory updates to prevent overselling. And then there's routine orders. And it talks about Printify. So they talked about Printify, which I found to be a very interesting point for small and middle business levels, compatible with Shopify, eBay, Wix, BigCommerce, and more. It's free. Seller pays for the product and ships the cost. So Printify, in case you're not familiar, Printify is like a print-on-demand service. So say if I wanted, I don't know, to make a t-shirt, I'm not paying out of pocket to like buy the t-shirts, design the t-shirts, paying someone to design it. I can design it online, and if somebody purchases it, that cost comes out of the cost of the shirt. Say if the cost of the shirt itself is $15, maybe if it's a blank name brand shirt for $15, let's call it Reebok or something like that, and then if somebody buys the shirt with my design on it, I would have to factor in the cost of that $15 shirt plus the cost of the shipping plus the cost of whatever the Printify's service fees would be, on top of probably the TikTok service fees, and if I paid for any marketing or ads, and on top of that, taxes. And so those are kind of like 5 things you kind of have to take into consideration, as well as, if you're paying for any kind of, like, if you have Shopify, for example, and you're paying like a monthly subscription of like $29 or $39 a month, you're probably going to want to factor some of these things into the cost of your items. It's just annoying, but you don't want to break even or not make a profit, basically. So you do have to consider at least like 5 to 6 areas into the cost. So your $15 shirt is going to have to probably be more than that, but for you to make any profit at all, and you want to really be strict with all your costs. I mean, when you think of all those things I just mentioned, did I miss anything? Those are the main things you have to consider paying. But if you have subscriptions, say if you have apps where you're subscribed to the apps, you're really going to need to consider those costs, because if you're paying $9.99 a month over here, and then you have some other maybe you're looking for drop ship products on some other paid uh, um, app or software, and maybe you're paying some other person on Fiverr to do some work for you. I don't know, Upwork, whatever it may be. You really have to consider, where's the money coming from? Unless you have another source of income coming from elsewhere. But you don't want to be spending money. You don't want to be coming out of pocket all the time. Sometimes you might, when you're testing items or testing apps or testing products. Sometimes you might actually have to come out of pocket, but you want to keep track of all your numbers. For example, today I just had to pay my annual GoDaddy website renewal fee, and it's like things like that. You're just like, okay, if you got to site up, you got to pay that .com. I got a monthly fee to keep the site open. If I have any stores, I've got monthly fees on those, or if I make any sales, or if I used any kind of paid promotions, I got to pay for those. You really got to be good with the math and consider all your numbers. Otherwise, these days, it's easy to lose a lot of money. It's not like it was before where everything was free. Everything. eBay used to be free. Craigslist used to be free. Everything was free. And people would just pay up front. The good old days, people would pay up front in full for their product. And you'd have all the money at once. If they were buying an item for $15 and $5 shipping, you get that $20 up front, and you could pay for the item and pay for the shipping all at once. But nowadays, if you're lucky, most programs they'll float you the shipping right away. But I mean, if you don't have packaging, if you don't have boxes and whatever, envelopes and whatever you need, you might be at a disadvantage. You can go to the 99-cent store or Big Lots or Walmart and find like cheap shipping supplies. But yeah, it ain't easy, guys. It is not easy these days. Let's look at these last couple slides. Yotpo, YOTPO. Ideal for small to middle businesses, medium businesses. Compatible with Shopify, Adobe, Magneto, BigCommerce, and Zendesk. Starts at $15 a month. The key benefits are you can sync product reviews from verified buyers to TikTok shop listings, increase credibility with unbiased third-party reviews, improve visibility to boost search rankings and attract new buyers. Now, some of these apps I'm going to try and I'll review them. I'm not going to try them all right now. It says, where's the App Store? So you can go to services.tiktokshops.us /apps. And then it shows you the apps. So those are the apps that they talked about today. My 2 cents kind of in relation to these topics. I guess my opinion on a lot of this is, it might be a little bit complicated if you haven't used the apps yet. I've had experience more with Shopify apps, and one thing I noticed is, what did I used to use? I used to use Dropshipmen. It was free at one point, and then it wasn't. I don't know if maybe I had a free trial, maybe if that's what it was. I don't really know. I really don't remember. but I just remember it wasn't free at a certain point, and that's kind of what I was using to kind of source my products at one point. Um, but yeah, as far as the apps, the only thing I can really think of is, making sure you, you know, maybe follow up on some reviews. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of YouTubers that have reviewed these apps. Try to find some of the reviews on them before you use them, especially if it's a paid one that doesn't have a free trial, so that you can kind of get a feel for what people are saying, the pros and the cons. Because guys, TikTok shop it can be a mess. It's I don't know, I hate to say this. Some apps, now I don't know about these apps specifically. Let me talk more about my Shopify experience. Some of those apps are kind of janky. They're a little glitchy. You know, you can't really find what you're trying to find, or like, maybe it says, oh, like AI generates your descriptions or whatever, and then you read it and the English is all like messed up and it sounds all like weird. Um, or sometimes the product descriptions that it already like preloads, or like they're poor grammar and things like that. So you really want to make sure, when you're using certain apps, that you still have to use this whole due diligence process to kind of make sure that you're not getting, you know, things aren't looking unprofessional on your end just because the app is kind of like falling short in some way. You want to test it, make sure that the orders are getting fulfilled, make sure that, you know, there's no weird hidden fees and payments. Like, you want to know if these apps are charging you extra fees. Similar, okay, say if you bought food off Grubhub or Uber Eats or something, or Instacart, there's a service fee, there's whatever other kind of fee just for using the app, there's taxes, there's tip, there's extra fees on top of just using something. So a lot of times you want to make sure, you're able to account for every single cent, because these things add up. I mean, sometimes your profit margins might not even be that big. If you're making like a $2 profit off of an item just to keep it cheap, and then you have all these other fees coming out of nowhere, like you could easily have $7 in fees, and now you're like losing $5 every time you sell something, and you were expecting to make $2 and now you're losing $5. It's like, maybe that's not a big deal if it happens once, but if you don't catch it and you sell like some kind of some kind of ad that you make goes viral, and you sell like a whole bunch of stuff that you can't afford, if you weren't expecting to lose like $500 overnight, you know I don't know, like, you just gotta pay attention, especially if you're in the drop shipping world, because a lot of times there's a lot of little details that come up later, like, are you getting paid up front? Is there like a payout date? Do they pay you every other week or once a month? I don't know, I don't think TikTok works this way, but some apps like Spotify, for example, you have to have a certain amount of money in your account. Like, if you don't have $10, you can't withdraw the money. And so you got to make sure, you're following, you kind of know all the details of everything if you're going to try to like reflow that money, or if you're just kind of like using that money and using the profit to reinvest into the next campaign. You got to know what the timeline looks like. It's like, if you're waiting for 30 days shipping from China, and then you can post the product, and run your ads and all this kind of stuff, and then you're getting sales and there's all these fees, and then you're not able to like pay for things up front, you might get screwed, because if you do that once and then you get some kind of violation or some kind of bad mark on your account health, then you're kind of not going to be in a very good place, and you've put in all that effort waiting and spending money and all that time and effort put into like taking the photos or cropping screenshots and posting the products and writing these descriptions and doing the math on the pricing and everything. it's a lot of work. Even when it's easy, it's a lot of work. I mean, even if you're just selling stuff, you know, that you already have, you know, it's still a lot of work, you know. So, um, yeah, I'm not sure if I have too much more to say on this one, this episode specifically, about the apps, but that's kind of mostly what comes to mind is, you know, vet the apps, watch some reviews, start slow, you know. If you can use free trials, try to use free trials. Keep track of when the trial is gonna renew. Um, just little things like that. You got to be organized. Um, it's not the hardest thing on earth, but there are little things that come up. And so if you're not organized about it and you're just like, I'm just gonna find this thing and post it at this price, you know, if you start actually making a lot of sales, that could come back and bite you. Even if you feel like you're making a profit, sometimes you might not be making a big enough profit, because when tax season comes around and you have to file for 2024, you know, once it's January of 2025 and you're like, oh, the beginning of 2024 I did great on my sales, and you know, you start looking at the money and you're like, oh, I didn't charge taxes on all this, you know, maybe you don't have an LLC or something, maybe you can't write off a bunch of stuff. um, you know, you got to kind of just keep track. You just got to keep track, you know. um, I'd say my recommendation would be go at the pace that you can track. If you know you're bad at staying organized in those ways, go at the pace that you're actually going to put together a spreadsheet and track things. If it's only going to be once every other week that you're tracking stuff, because you're not going to do it on a daily basis and you know yourself, don't put it so that you have to do that, because you might look every second week and be like, what happened? You know, these processes are in a way a little bit automated, but in a way it's not that automated, guys. Like it's not always that easy. You know, you might have sellers that have you might have customers with questions. You might have different things you need to verify. You might have, depending what kind of apps you're using, there might be processes where you have to go in and manually, you know, put in the shipping or whatever it is. There might be something you need to do on your end, and not just like put a bunch of apps, you know, use a bunch of apps and like load up a bunch of photos and everything, and then, you know, have to deal with it. So, I think that might be all I have to really say about apps. I mean, I kind of went off on a little tangent with some other tips, but I feel like it's all kind of relevant, because when it comes to apps, you know, a lot of them, like they're listed on here, they're not free. And then if you're not using free apps, you really do have to consider that's a cost, that's an expense for you, you know. $9.99 a month, $15 a month, $99 a month, you know, you got to take that off out of your profits, you know. If you only make a profit of $99 a month and then you're spending $99 a month on an app, you really got to take that into consideration. Is that app worth it? Can you find a different app elsewhere? One difficulty about social media platforms with their selling options and their apps is that sometimes you can't really find a lot of good apps, alternative apps that integrate. Versus if you have like your own online store through, like, I don't know, some platforms are more flexible than others. Um, but I don't really know what to say. A lot of it's subject to change too, so I would also recommend trying to find like an alternative app. to the ones that you like, because sometimes they are no longer free or they don't have them anymore. Like, I've had experiences using apps before where it's like, oh, the app, they don't they don't use this app anymore. It doesn't exist on that platform. And then you're like scrambling to find some other kind of app that's similar, and it's like, no two apps are exactly alike. So, well, not really, but alright, guys. If you guys are liking these, I'm gonna post more of them. I'm just kind of testing it out. But for now, that's about it for now. Alright, guys. Well, for this one, I decided to keep this part about the violations update kind of separated from the episode about the webinar. So I'm just gonna keep it separate, and I'll post them both same day.